Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we have some urgent and truly important news to break down regarding the future of some of South Africa's most vital financial programs, SASSA, UIF, and GEPF. These are programs that millions of citizens depend on for their monthly survival, and any changes can have massive impacts across the country. What's worrying is how quiet the government has been about some looming funding cuts that could reshape the way these institutions operate. We're going to dive deep into the details, explain what's happening, and what you should prepare for. So make sure you watch until the end because these changes could affect you or someone you know very soon. Now, over the past few months, financial analysts and insiders have been raising concerns about the sustainability of government-backed programs like the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, the Unemployment Insurance Fund, UIF, and the Government Employees Pension Fund, GEPF. At the core of the worry is funding, or more specifically, the lack of sufficient funding to maintain the benefits and services at current levels. Budget shortfalls, rising costs, and a slowing economy have put enormous pressure on the government's ability to deliver, and yet, despite clear warning signs, officials have been incredibly tight-lipped about what their next moves are going to be. That silence is creating even more anxiety among citizens, especially the elderly, unemployed, and public sector workers who depend heavily on these programs. Let's start with SASSA, which plays a critical role in distributing grants to some of the most vulnerable members of society. Every month, millions of South Africans rely on the grants administered by SASSA, whether it's old age pensions, child support grants, disability grants, or the COVID-19 Social Relief of Distress grant, which, although initially temporary, has become a vital lifeline for many. However, the rising number of beneficiaries and the increased amounts being distributed have made it harder for the government to keep up. While they have promised to continue supporting these grants, insiders suggest that without new funding injections, there could be significant adjustments coming. This might mean reduced grant amounts, stricter eligibility criteria, or even payment delays. None of these options are ideal, and they could potentially throw millions into deeper financial hardship. Meanwhile, the situation with the UIF is also looking grim. Originally designed to help those who lost their jobs or were temporarily unable to work, the UIF was heavily tapped during the COVID-19 pandemic when unemployment skyrocketed. Billions of rands were paid out to support workers and businesses during lockdowns. Unfortunately, the economic recovery hasn't been as fast or as strong as hoped, and with unemployment rates still stubbornly high, the UIF's resources are stretched thinner than ever. What's concerning is that recent reports have highlighted mismanagement and even corruption within the fund, meaning that even the limited resources they have might not have been used as effectively as they should have been. Despite these alarming issues, government communication has been minimal, leading many to fear that major reforms or even drastic benefit reductions are coming. Turning to the GEPF, this fund represents the retirement savings of nearly 1.2 million public servants and government employees. For decades, it was considered one of the more stable and secure pension funds in the country. But even the GEPF is facing new risks. Investment returns have been volatile, and there's growing concern that payouts could eventually be affected if broader economic challenges persist. The GEPF's assets are massive, but they are not limitless. If government budgets tighten further, there's a real risk that political pressure could mount to borrow from the fund to cover other shortfalls, a move that would endanger long-term pension security. Public sector unions are already on high alert, warning members to brace for possible changes to contribution rates, retirement age adjustments, or recalculations of pension benefits. One of the biggest frustrations right now is how little transparency there has been about the future of these programs. Rather than coming forward with clear plans or honest communication, the government has largely remained silent, offering vague reassurances but no real details. For everyday South Africans, that silence is deafening. It suggests that behind closed doors, very difficult decisions are being made, and the public may only find out once the changes are a done deal. For many, this brings back painful memories of past financial missteps and scandals that hurt the most vulnerable the hardest. Citizens deserve better. They deserve to know what's happening with the money and benefits they depend on. It's important to understand why these programs are under such strain. South Africa's economy has faced multiple challenges over the last few years: sluggish growth, persistent inequality, high unemployment, and massive infrastructure issues, especially in energy and transportation. All these problems have combined to limit the government's ability to raise revenue through taxes. Meanwhile, the need for social support has only grown. It's a vicious cycle: more need, but less money to meet that need. Without bold economic reforms and significant efforts to stimulate growth, the situation is unlikely to improve soon. That leaves budget cuts as one of the only tools left, and sadly, cuts to social programs are often seen as the quickest way to reduce spending, even if they cause long-term harm. Adding to the sense of urgency is the upcoming election cycle. Politicians are keenly aware that making unpopular changes now could cost them votes. That's another reason why the government might be staying quiet. They are trying to delay announcements until after elections are over. However, this strategy risks making the situation even worse. Without early warnings and preparation, sudden cuts can have devastating impacts. For example, if SASSA grants are suddenly reduced or delayed, countless families could face food insecurity. If UIF payments dry up, unemployed workers could be pushed into homelessness. And if GEPF benefits are threatened, retirees might see their entire financial plans collapse overnight. These are not distant or theoretical risks; they are very real and could unfold quickly once budget realities can no longer be hidden. Already, we are starting to see some small signs of change. Recent policy documents have hinted at reassessments of social spending priorities. Officials have quietly begun reviewing grant structures, suggesting that future increases may be limited or tied to inflation only. There's also been talk of means testing some grants more strictly, meaning that people would have to prove even more rigorously that they qualify, potentially pushing some marginal beneficiaries out of the system. These subtle shifts are early warnings of bigger moves to come. It's like the government is slowly testing the waters, seeing how much resistance there is before fully committing to deeper cuts. For those who depend on these programs, preparation is key. It's wise to start planning now for possible changes. That might mean finding additional sources of income, cutting non-essential expenses, or even reaching out to local community organizations for support. For pensioners and public sector workers, staying informed and connected with unions and advocacy groups can help ensure that your voice is heard as these debates unfold. Collective action may be one of the only effective ways to push back against unfair or poorly communicated changes. At the same time, it's essential for citizens to demand more transparency and accountability from leaders. We have the right to know how government funds are being used. We have the right to be consulted about changes that affect our livelihoods. And we have the right to expect that programs built to serve the public good are managed honestly, efficiently, and sustainably. Silence is not acceptable, and it's up to all of us to raise our voices and insist on better communication and better leadership. There's also an important conversation happening about the role of private sector involvement in these public programs. Some analysts have suggested that allowing private financial institutions to manage certain aspects of SASSA or UIF could improve efficiency and reduce corruption. Others warn that privatization could lead to higher costs, reduced access, and greater inequality. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But if major changes are being considered behind closed doors, citizens deserve to be part of that conversation. We must not allow decisions that affect millions of lives to be made in secret without public debate. International examples show that mismanaging social programs can have catastrophic consequences. In countries where pensions or unemployment benefits were suddenly slashed, poverty rates skyrocketed, public unrest grew, and political instability followed. South Africa cannot afford to walk that path. Careful, transparent, and compassionate planning is needed now more than ever. Investing in social security is not just a moral obligation, it's smart economics. Strong safety nets support consumer spending, stabilize communities, and create the conditions for economic growth. Cutting them recklessly does the opposite. It deepens recession, drives immigration, and fuels despair. As we wait for more official announcements, it's important not to give in to panic but also not to fall asleep at the wheel. Pay attention to policy changes, attend community meetings, and stay informed through trusted news sources. Share information with friends and family so that everyone can be prepared. And remember, pressure works. Public outcry has stopped bad policies before, and it can do so again if we stand together. In conclusion, the government's silence on looming funding cuts for SASSA, UIF, and GEPF is deeply worrying. Behind the scenes, big changes are almost certainly being planned. Those changes could reshape the financial future of millions of South Africans, from pensioners and public servants to unemployed workers and vulnerable families. While officials may hope to delay the political fallout by staying quiet, the reality is that transparency and early communication are crucial to avoid chaos. Citizens must stay alert, stay organized, and stay vocal to protect the programs they rely on. We'll be watching this story very closely and bringing you updates as soon as they happen, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any critical news. Thank you for spending your time with us today and for caring about the future of our communities. If you found this video helpful or eye-opening, please smash that like button and share this with others who need to hear it. Your support helps us keep bringing you the news and analysis that matters most. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and take care of each other.